This is Grandmaster NODIRBEK ABDUSATTOROV, the chess prodigy. He's only 19, but right now he is the current number 4 in the world. In 2021, he became the youngest World Rapid Champion ever, ahead of former World Classical Champion Magnus Carlsen, and also in tiebreaks he defeated Jan Nepomniachtchi, winning the whole event. 1 year later, he clinched the gold medal with the Uzbekistan team on Chess Olympiad. In 2023, I had a big pleasure to face him in 7th round on World Blitz Championship held in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Does an international master have any chance against number 4 in the world in real game? And there we go. The game started with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, d5 and bishop g5. So we have a typical setup for Queen's Gambit declined. There I can opt for several options. The classical bishop e7, which leads to some card-bad structures which I wanted to avoid. I played bishop b4 here. This is somehow a good way to play this system a little bit sharper, a little bit in a little bit more active way. He played e3, h6, bishop h4, so he keeps tension because of that pin, and there I played c5. This is of course pretty normal move. I put some pressure on the center, and he plays c takes d5, and of course if I take back with the pawn after d takes c5, I have to be worried about the fact that I am going to play with an isolated pawn, but I analyzed this position a little bit earlier in the home. Of course I couldn't expect that this variation can happen, especially in a blitz variation. But I remember I analyzed quite an interesting line, queen a5. The reason of that move is, of course, to make a double pressure on the c3 square and to threat to take the pawn on d5 with the knight, so that I wouldn't make an isolated pawn for myself. But this is a pretty risky line. As you can see, the bar a little bit exploded on the white's advantage. Bishop takes f6. This is a really good way to avoid this knight d5 ideas, and it leads to a really complicated position, because after this variation he plays king e2. He doesn't care. He wouldn't do castle for the rest of the game, but on the other hand, he attacks my queen and attacks my pawn on c5. I played the move there, queen a3, which sounded pretty reasonable for me, because I wanted to attack the pawn and also to take it with the check. But somehow queen b4 is a little bit better. The funny thing is that literally the same position happened in my game some rounds later against Alexander Grischuk, where I played this very same move, queen a3, and then he answered in the best way, because Grischuk took the pawn on c5, and then after playing knight a6, kicking off the rook, he just played queen c1, the only move which gives advantage there. Because of the fact that the queen attacks both my queen and bishop on c8, I am made to exchange queens, and the endgame with such a horrible pawn structure is on the level of 2700, I totally lost, and Grischuk played perfectly, and he just crushed me in a strategical battle. But after queen a3, some weird things started to happen, because NODIRBEK, after some time, he decided to take the pawn on e6. I couldn't really understand this idea, but you know, as you can see, he's 1 minute. He has 1 minute advantage above me, and you know, he's expressing himself in really, in a really brave way. He doesn't show you he's afraid of you. He shows his strength, making every single move, and he also played this move d takes e6 with a really sure hand. But you know, I should be focused. I just couldn't care about his expressions. I just needed to be ready on everything which will happen on the board. I just took the pawn with the bishop, developing the piece, and he played by hand a losing move. He played d5. I have no idea what he missed, because I can play a lot of good moves against this move. The thing is, probably he just thought I need to retreat with this bishop. I don't know, maybe, let's say, on d7. And if I retreat this bishop again, I have a somewhat, destroyed pawn structure. And he should be fine, even though he has a king on e2. Probably he needs to escape with it, develop pieces quickly, and somehow transport the king to g2 just to end the development. Because you need to remember, if he moved his king, can do castle. So that's why he need to maneuver his king in that simple way. But d5 move is actually losing, and believe me, I was really surprised when he played it. Because, you know, if a guy on the level like this plays such a move, you just believe him. That he's, he calculated everything 20 moves ahead, and he just sees everything, and you don't. But this is not always the truth. And this is a great example that even such great players are sometimes human. I took the pawn with the check. Queen takes a2. And the thing is that I also attacking the d5 pawn. But he played rook c2 again by hand. Well, I took another pawn. And rook d2 by hand. Let's have a look. 238, 239, and 241. So he was going to this position and he was sure that he is fine. Let's have a look. Now queen and the rook attacks the d8 square. So if I move my queen to a random square, I just lose a rook and lose the game. And I lose any hope to, to fight against 27 plus 100 player. But I can just go with this queen with the check. Queen c4. King e1. Maybe he was hoping for that position because he still played by hand. King e1, he escaped. Now the bishop is attacking the queen. Queen and rook still attacks the d8 square. But I can just pin the rook. Queen b4. And I couldn't believe what I see. This is a move number 16 in the game. NODIRBEK ABDUSATTOROV has almost every single piece on the first square. He destroyed the possibility of making the castle, and his rook is pinned. And me? Let's count the pawns. I am 2 pawns up after the opening. I would have no problems with development. I would have no problems with castling. I am winning. Wow. I mean, of course, this is a blitz, so everything can happen. So, but this is something crazy. Something happened really, really bad to NODIRBEK ABDUSATTOROV. I have no idea what. He was probably, a little bit frustrated because we played in the 7th round on the board number 40 or 50. So it's a really, really far board for him. And after the 6 rounds, he started the tournament with 3 losses. Okay? He lost 3 games with white pieces. And this is his 4th game with white pieces, and he has such a terrible position. So he was probably a little bit frustrated. Also, I have one conclusion that the fact he played in his home country, in Uzbekistan, he maybe probably felt some pressure that he need to prove something, that, he is great, he is a representative of his country. So he needs to show his best. He needs to prove the result as good as he did in Warsaw 2021. I don't know, maybe such things crossed his mind. But anyway, he was dead lost after the opening against me, against International Master. What the heck? He played f4 in order to, make this king out of the pin. Okay, I developed pieces. Knight c6. He played king f2 and c4. If you have an advantage on one side of the board, just push there. So I played c4. He played queen c1. I made a castle. I know that the structure there is a little bit damaged, but my king is pretty safe since I can't get any checks on the G file. And I want to develop the rook on the open file. I want to connect my rooks, so everything is totally fine. He played rook b2. I escaped with my queen, and I knew that I am losing the pawn, but I am still a pawn up. But I can end my development. I played rook a b8, put the rook on the open file. He just exchanged it. And exchanges, of course, are on my favor, because I am material up. And he developed, finally, in move number 23, he develops this knight. He plays knight f3. So I push the pawn. I play c3. Now something like rook b2 is the threat. My heart rate pumped so much. Really, I felt, I felt that it can really happen. I felt it. But in Blitz, if you have 40 seconds on the clock or whatever time you have, it doesn't really matter. You need to focus, okay? You can't think about anything else than to do your task. So I played c3. He develops his pieces. I played rook b2 check. You can see that the bar says it's -7.4. So it's, of course, pretty understandable because I have that advanced free pawn. I have rook on b2, which crosses the second file. His king is on g3. And I can give a lot of checks. I played knight b4, kicking off this bishop and asking him some questions. Of course, I am really happy of exchanging it. If he plays rook d1, my intention was to take on d3, play rook d3, and play queen h5, threatening this and threatening the mate on g4. So he is probably over. He can give a one check, but after king g7, I am still threatening this. If he defends it, I give a check there. I take the pawn. Well, it should be made really, really soon. So, of course, he doesn't want to allow to exchange this piece, and he played bishop b1 there, and bishop f5. I want to transport my queen to the king side in order to create some threats. Double attack on the b1. Seems that he needs to exchange it. Bishop f5, queen f5, and he took the pawn on c3. I can't say it was a blunder, but because of so many emotions that I felt, I somehow missed this thing that I blundered this pawn. But it isn't blunder at all, because as I told you, I have the queen on the king side, and I give this really unpleasant check. He escaped. He played king h4, which is pretty reasonable. But during he was thinking, when I was thinking after playing before playing queen g6, I was thinking what I will do after playing knight g5. Like, what the heck? What are you doing? The thing is that if I take the knight, he can take my free rook, and I was trying to calculate, can I somehow make a use of the fact that queen will stand on b2, and if the king goes to f2, I can get some fork. And I think I can play just f takes g5, and after queen b2, g takes f4. Now the thing is, if he goes to f2 or f4, I give a check and get a queen in the next move. So he can escape on f3, but I can give a check now to h5, and still king f2, king f4, knight d3, bye-bye queen. If he plays g4, I can give a check. I am really, really annoying on that fact. He can escape in order if he doesn't want to lose the queen, because king e2, queen g2, bye-bye queen. But after king e4, I think I finally hunt him. Queen takes e3, king f5, queen e6, king f4, knight d3. Okay, to be honest with you, this is not the variation I calculated. I just believed that if I give some checks like queen h5 and queen h3, I intuitively felt that there should be something, yeah, but it didn't really matter because he played king h4. Rook takes g2. Now I threat to give a checkmate on g4, and you have 20 seconds on the clock. You feel that his king is on h4, and you now started talking to myself. If you will do something bad to yourself if you don't win this game, yeah, because it's really stupid. But this is how the real game looks like. Instead of thinking what best move you can make in this position, you are starting to think what bad will happen to you if you don't win this position, if you lose such a great chance to beat one of the best players in the world. This is stupid, but this is probably lack of experience playing such a, you know, good and top players. If I would have a greater and bigger experience, probably such thoughts wouldn't never cross my mind. But because of the fact that this is the strongest player I played in real life, in real game, on the real chessboard, probably that's why I was thinking about such things. But the position was that good that it was really hard. It was really hard to, to misplay it. He gave a check. I escaped to g7, and he played knight d1. You know, after like 14 seconds of thinking, he played knight d1, trying to kick off the rook. And you can't even imagine that with the king on h4 there can't be a mate, right? But this move was pretty smart because it covers the g4 square. On the h5 I can't give a check, but I felt there should be something. There's nothing wrong with going somewhere with the rook, for example, rook e2, attacking the pawn. It's okay. But if you have so many pieces, so many heavy pieces around the king, you just feel there should be something. And I think I found it. I found the best move in the position, which totally destroys any of his dreams of recovering to this game. How to create a checkmate net. This could be a really good example in my, in my complete guides to chess puzzles. If you didn't see this one, I invite you to watch them, because I recorded a series of 6 episodes, how to better solve chess puzzles. If you didn't see it, you can probably see the attachment in the description. But okay, how to create a checkmate, how to beat NODIRBEK ABDUSATTOROV, the World Rapid Champion from 2021. f5. We need to close the communication, the queen communication with the g4 square. And you think you can take the rook. No, you can't, because now I give a checkmate e1. The queen doesn't look to g4 square. And he knew this thing. After f5, he knew what's going to happen. His last chance to cover the h3 square. But it doesn't really matter, because after rook g4, I can proudly say to everyone that I checkmated NODIRBEK ABDUSATTOROV, since after h takes g4, the queen takes g4 is a checkmate.